All right, folks, 700 days. Seth, it's been 700 days since USF football beat an FBS program, but they did it today. And in emphatic fashion, at least offensively, as they beat the Rice Owls 42-29 to go 1-0 in conference play to start the 2023 season. Seth, initial thoughts and takeaways from this game tonight?
Well, coming into it, I thought it was a really important game just in terms of setting yourself up for the rest of the season. If you did lose it, it wasn't kind of a season ruiner. But this is one before the year and before you saw Rice play that you thought you should be able to win.
Mm-hmm.
And as the season plays out, some other teams are probably worse than you thought. Rice is probably a little bit better than you thought. But getting this one in the books definitely starts you off on a really good run, and you've got about a month worth of games where, you have a chance to win all of them if you play as well as you did on offense tonight and clean up some things on defense. So that's got to be pretty exciting if you're a USF fan going into kind of this next month-long stretch.
Yeah, absolutely. We kind of talked about it before the season, best case, worst case, realistic, and you're 2-2 going into not as good Navy team. Better than I thought, but still not that great, with a chance to be 3-2 after your first 5 games of the season, and a really good shot to go bowling if you pull out this win next week at Navy, because UConn
they've been really bad since their quarterback got hurt.
Not good.
Your next month is at Navy, which if Navy plays, they're playing better as of late, but if they play as poor as they did early, you feel like you can win that one. At UAB, which hasn't exactly lit the world on fire.
FAU's without a quarterback.
Home, their starting quarterback's out for the year. And then I think after that is that the UConn after that one?
UConn, Memphis it's dispersed in there. Charlotte as well at the end of the year.
Charlotte's a little. I think they're playing Florida tight-ish. They'll be interesting at the end of the year, but because they've got a ton of transfers. But so does USF, and you're starting to see some of those guys come alive a little bit now that have been in the system a little bit.
Yeah, let's discuss some records broken tonight. Byron Brown is now second all-time by USF quarterback for passing yards in a game, trailing only Quentin Flowers, 503 at Central Florida in 2017. Byron finishes with a grand total of 435 yards, 2 touchdowns. Over half of those yards go to Naeem Simmons, who caught all 8 of his targets for 272 yards. It's not only a program record for a single game, which he beat Tyree McCancis 227 from that same 2017 game. It is the most yards put up by a wide receiver from a state of Florida college. Florida, Miami, FIU, Florida State, all of them. He has the record.
Think about the receivers that have come through the state of Florida the past 30 years. A lot of All-Americans, first-round draft picks.
Andre Johnson, shot.
A lot of really talented guys, but the record holder is
Santana and Sonoris Moss. No.
Reggie Wayne?
No.
Jacquez Green, Riddle Anthony, I kill you. No.
Percy Harvin.
No.
None of them.
Peter Ward.
Nope.
No. Crefonzo Thorpe.
Kelvin Benjamin, right?
Keon Coleman.
Coleman. What a nerd. He did have a fantastic catch in that Florida State game today, though. But this is what the offense is supposed to look like. And Coach Golish talked about it last week, how he felt like he didn't do a good enough job getting Byron Brown into a rhythm early enough in the game. He did so today. Byron started 8 for 8 passing the ball today. Really felt like he got into a rhythm. Asked Coach Golish in the press conference tonight if it was more getting him to an early rhythm or the switch to going to 12 personnel in the second half that kind of sparked the offense. He said it was kind of the extra protection. He said Byron Brown was the one that suggested that going into the second half, is bringing in an extra tight end, giving them some extra protection, having a shot to get down the field. Naeem Simmons capitalized on it. Sean Atkins capitalized on it. And Seth, you kept telling me in the press box, why is Rice still staying in man coverage?
Yeah, so when they brought in the 2 tights, and Coach Golish said this after the game as well, but it kind of compressed the interior of the formation. So the safeties came in a little bit tighter with the tight ends as well. So then it was one-on-one outside. And if you won that, there was a bunch of chunk yardage, which, I mean, what did Byram throw for them? Probably 300 in the second half.
Close to 300 in the second
so it seemed like Rice was really committed to stopping the run. Now, USF still ended up decent on the ground, but they were really committed to stopping the run, and they just kind of kept saying, which I think if you watch USF for the first 3 games, you'd say, yeah, keep beating. I'm going to make you continually beat me with the throw. Yep. And USF was able to. Byron Brown played awesome. The second half was like peak Byron Brown, like at the peak of his power so far at USF. Throwing the ball, I mean, like pinpoint perfect on some of these throws. The one he missed, Chaffee Brown makes a great catch. Running the ball, pulling the ball on the read option, running the speed option stuff. I mean, running that stuff to perfection. Just about a perfect half for Byron in the second half.
Yeah, and Golish I think it's just more of his personality. He doesn't really care about the past, yada, yada, yada. Hey, we want to know. I don't really care what happened previously. But 700 days is a long time not to win an FBS football game. But more importantly, you fumble at the goal line, and the very next offensive play for Rice is a 75 or 80-yard touchdown throw. Previous regimes, USF loses by 20 after that 2-play sequence, and you bounce back, you score I think it was on the ensuing drive or just about, and you step on their throat and you break their neck. Like, that's just what this offense did. I thought that final touchdown drive was really important to go up by 21. And I think Golish knew it as well, because he was like, screw it, we're going to go play a trick play for the 2-point conversion, run the Philly special, and it's wide open. Sean Atkins to Byron Brown for the score there. So,
yeah, you survived basically back-to-back Bobby Hill kicks in the groin on back-to-back plays. And that's kind of, like you said, it's about as bad as it can be on back-to-back plays.
Right.
I'm sure when you look back at the game, if we look at the expected points added, those two will be monsters. But you're able to respond, get some stops on defense. I thought the pace started to catch up a little bit with Rice, but also just them continually to stay in the same defense, not really changing up much, and USF's ability to make the plays when they were there. So it was a really, really good second half. Defensively, you got enough stops when you needed them. Kind of a couple. The Rice touchdown, the long one right after the fumble, was a really well designed play, and we'll go over that in the film room next week. But really well designed play, took advantage of you. But they're going to call good plays. It's about being able to respond, and USF did.
Yep, I was in the bathroom during one of the drives in Sam Barrington. They had the radio call going on in Sam Barrington. It's what we've said all along. These guys get paid too, or these guys are on scholarship too. They schemed it up pretty well, and this Rice offense is pretty exciting. And if they can kind of keep it together. It was unfortunate JT Daniels got hurt. I think it's probably a little bit of a different back half of the second half for them. The backup was just not ready. But kudos to USF's defense. They kind of put the gas, pedal to the metal here toward the end of the half, toward the end of the game, and put it away. Something that they have not been able to do in a very long time. And USF is now 1-2 in games where they score first against FBS opponents this season. So that's a step in the right direction. Unfortunately, 0-1 again. They didn't score against FAMU first, but highlights. 25 first downs for USF. They rushed the ball for 162 yards, threw for 435. Sean Atkins was his old reliable self again in the slot, and then they kind of figured out, in the second half to get Simmons the ball, and by God, he did. That was a really impressive performance. And looking at the play chart, how the depth of target, it looked like Byron was 6 of 10 on 20-plus yard shots for 300-ish yards, if I counted that up right. or 8 of 10. Some are pretty close to that. I'd have to double check. I don't really trust the in-game stats. We'll take a look at PFF when they come out tomorrow, and they update throughout the week, so the numbers kind of get massaged out. So it'll be interesting to see kind of where they're at with everything. But
I think the snap counts in this game will be interesting.
Yes.
Offensively, you've really seemed to settle into certain guys, and then there's rotation at 1 or 2 spots instead of where there's a ton of rotation. There's some positions where you're still kind of heavily rotating, but running back seems to be mostly settled before that fumble. Now,
Mikey Deuce didn't really play, if at all.
I don't think he played much. I don't remember seeing him much, so he's one I want to look at when the snap counts come out to kind of see what he ended up getting. But you saw a lot of Naquan Wright, and then Kalen Powell played really well when he got his chance. Made a great cut in the first half on one of the 2 touchdown drives. So it seems like he's maybe jumped up to that 2 role, and Naquan did come back in after the fumble, but I think the immediate drive after was Kalen Powell.
Yeah. So
he's taking advantage of his opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw a little bit of TJ Kelly, Tyree Kelly. Made a great tackle, just unfortunately on his own guy.
First action, 1 tackle.
It's unfortunate there. Let's see. USF ran 70 plays, which was what, 13 or 16 more plays than Rice's defense should
usually giving up 57. I think in the first half it was like 33.
Yeah.
So they were able to kind of get a few more in the second half. I thought at times, and this was kind of one of our big keys to the game was the pace started to hit to Rice. They had some big dudes up front, not a ton of like twitch and athleticism, but they were big. And you saw anytime there was an extended drive, those guys were dropping to a knee by the end. You saw a couple illegal substitutions where it looked like they had about 15 guys on the field because they're trying to run guys off and get guys on. So I thought the pace was really effective in this game. And also, Naeem Simmons kind of seemed to allude to the pace messing up their alignment a little bit defensively and allowing them to get some of those shots as well.
And in this offense, if you have a coverage bus on the backside, it's not for 15 yards. It's going to be for 35 yards.
Big time.
So that's the positives. The negatives, JT Daniels dotted up this defense pretty easily.
It's negative, but he was on. He was
playing one of the best games I've seen him play in a very long time. There were some open guys,
but he was also like getting off the wrong guy, coming down to the right guy, back shouldering dudes. Like he was on point. The ball came out of his hands really fast,
very quick.
So the stuff you saw last week, all the exotic pressure stuff, it couldn't even get close.
No.
So when I think USF was most effective when they rushed 4 guys. We'll see. We'll go back and look once everything comes out. But I don't think the blitz stuff was super effective, but they were able to rush 4 and get pressure. And there we go.
Colin, we're going to discuss the pregame prediction on the Quint Discord. Was that the JT Daniels won't finish the game? Yeah. That was even money. So, congrats.
What was interesting was, like, I've seen a few kind of people be like, oh, this was not fluky for USF. It wasn't one of these wins where it felt fluky. There was points where Rice, it seemed everything was going their way in terms of, like, JT Daniels, who Colin, I think, said is statuesque, was able to get out of a couple when you had him in your grasp and make a play to extend drives on 3rd downs. It just seemed like it was going to be one of those games, but USF just was able to keep chugging on offense and got enough stops defensively to break it open.
Yeah. So RJ Perry obviously started at left tackle tonight. Donovan Jennings suffered a late week injury. It was he was a game time decision. Decided to hold him out. He was in the huddles. He was cheering. I saw him. Coach said he hopes to have him back for Monday to start practicing for Navy. So that's a good thing. Good sign for Zane Herring to come back. He started today after missing last week. So again, still kind of shuffling that offensive line. No one's been completely 100% since game 1. And coming out of the Alabama game, they seemed healthier than expected. Amaris Brown suited up and played.
RJ Perry was.
RJ Perry
was what a guy that came out last week.
Yeah, he's. I mean, he's not quite as old as Colin, but pretty close. So yeah, he's probably. I think you can't start claiming until 55 and a half or 65, and you start before you get penalized or something like that. 63 and a half. So he's getting pretty close to being able to get his Social Security money. There's really, I mean, it just feels good to win. I like. Seth, you asked me, like, does it get old, like, standing on the field, like, during?
Well, that's what I was like. Do you love? Is it just like the best thing ever?
It's incredible, especially after a win. It's the last 4 years have sucked, kind of walking around the field after a loss, but this is you felt it a little bit last week. Like, okay, I think things are a little bit different, and then tonight happens, and you're like, okay, this could be the start of something completely different. Put together next week. This was a very good response to, okay, you played well against a really tough opponent, and you come back the next week and you actually pull off the win for the first time in what felt like forever.
And really, this is, I guess you could say, you may say the first week would be included, but I mean, this is at least 3 weeks of playing pretty well strung together. You could probably include the first week. They played pretty well at times in that game, but you have not seen that kind of giant. You did not see the giant let off that we've seen the past 3-4 years, where you play pretty good, or you win one, you play good, and get close, and then the next week you just totally crater. Right? I think we had somebody in the Discord calling it "Don't pull a Louisville," because you played Florida tight last year and then just go get run out of the building.
What was that, 43-3? 45-3?
Yeah,
it was not great.
It was rough. But, and I think this sets you up really well for what's to come, especially if your offense can play like this, because I think you may see a similar style of game next week in terms of pace. Something maybe we'll ask Golish during the week, but I'd imagine they expect a similar game in terms of pace. He talked about they came into the game understanding they weren't going to get a ton of possessions, so they had to really take advantage of the ones they got. He felt like they squandered some in the first half, which, you easily could have scored 15 more points probably.
Yeah.
But they were able to do enough. But it's probably going to be similar next week, where even if you're able to get off the field relatively quick on defense, if you're not going 3-and-out, you're going to have – they're going to try to hold the ball a ton. You're not going to have a ton of possession.
Yeah.
So
they had, outside of the end of the half and then that final drive that kind of iced the game, they had 10 possessions.
Good.
9 possessions, I should say.
That's what he said. He thought they were going to get about 9.
And they scored on 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 of them, which, is pretty good. And one of them was a fumble at the 1-yard line. So they moved the ball pretty effectively on offense. Like we said last week, like we said going into this week, you're not gonna see an Alabama type defense.
No.
Like the plays are there to be made because you're not playing Alabama. And
Alabama played pretty similar last week in terms of some too high stuff, but when they wanted to, just like if you get vertical enough, the safety's just going to take it, all becomes man. But like I mentioned to Nathan before the game, this Rice team looked a little bit different than the Alabama team in the pregame.
Yeah,
so that's helpful.
They look like couscous out there sometimes. So a very, very tiny Rice. But I mean, outside of that, I'm excited for.
Should be a fun film room this week.
Yeah, victory podcast. We love those. First time since 2018, USF has been 500 or better this late into the season. That was the were we not 7-0 year under Charlie Strong. It's been that long. With that, enjoy your weekend. Enjoy, the Bucks play on Monday, so enjoy your Sunday. Decorate for Halloween or go to a pumpkin patch and have some fun. Go Bulls.